Welcome to Demand Gen Confidential, the marketing podcast where we'll be talking with some of the most progressive marketers out there, diving deep into marketing tactics to help you become a better marketer. Let's jump into today's episode. One of the things that I would like to have you do, because it's the exact thing that people are going to be expecting, is what amateur photography has taught you about selling B2B SaaS. That's going to be a very burning question.
Well, I think as a marketer, it's important to remain a creative spirit, and you have to apply creativity on a daily basis, because if everybody is doing the same thing, then everybody looks the same. So with photography, I played early on with like different angles and colors and just experimented. That still applies to marketing, not only on LinkedIn, but anywhere you want. In order to stick out, you got to do something different, and that is can be your creative, can you be your approach. But as you know, like sales, outreach, emails, pretty much all look and sound the same. And I get 20 a day, and they don't get more than half a second of attention because it's always just the same stuff. So being more creative and different is, I think, key to anything we do.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed the rebrands that are happening right now, and there's like
Hmm.
an absolute trend in what B2B rebrands look like. Like they're using the same fonts, it's black, so they're standing out and being creative. I wanted to get a little more out of the amateur photography piece because you were one of our photographers back in the day of doing our customer events when we worked together.
Uh-huh.
What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, capturing the moment nowadays, we have powerful phones that let us do a lot of it as well. But I do like I've experimented with lots of different cameras, and I do like a real DSLR, and even that tactical feel of the shutter and the noise that it makes, all of that, and the quality of the pictures with a really good lens is still unmatched by any phone. So yeah, it's capturing moments. I'm not the person that takes like 100 pictures of the same thing. I try to take, even with digital, take a very measured approach. Even when I take pictures with my phone, I usually take one picture and that is it of the subject that I want to photograph. And I still do that with my DSLR. And it probably comes from the time when we had real film and you could not just waste 15 shots on the same flower or the same person because you only had 30 in your on your film.
Yeah, I remember my mom did all of our pictures growing up, and I remember her telling me you got to take a lot of photos to get a good one out of it, and so you like go through it just to make sure that you have a good one. And I don't know, I'm not a picture taker myself, but
Yeah. No, I enjoy it. I was a big part of the early Flickr community, still have all my stuff on there. And yeah, nowadays it's a obscure website nobody knows anymore.
do people still go to it and use it? Like, does it have hardcore users, or is it just
Yeah,
fallen
it's
to the
still around,
wayside?
and I don't think it has a very active community. And frankly, I'm not. They started charging, and I didn't, so I downloaded most of my pictures, and then it's just like remnants out there, not of significance.
Gotcha. Well, why don't we do a quick introduction? So we're with Frederik Hermann, a seasoned marketer that has done everything. And what I'm really excited to present, and I'll let him tell you a little bit more about him, is the technical side of digital marketing and getting in the weeds, because the whole point of our show is how to become a better marketer. And the way to do that is knowing hands on what things are happening. So, Frederik, like, what should the audience know about you?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm Frederik Hermann, VP Marketing at Akia. That's akia.com. And we make software for hotels and vacation rentals. And my journey began actually in computer science and business. That's why I still love the technical aspect more than some of the other aspects and get deep into the weeds and trying to figure something out, even on code level. And Yeah, have been with 10 different tech startups, primarily here in the Bay Area. And as you said earlier, in different areas, lots of B2B SaaS, but also 7 years in wearable tech, smartwatches and fitness trackers. And so actual consumer products, which I did like as well, having a physical product with packaging and design and working with those hardware designers and the challenges that come with hardware was very interesting as well. And now I'm here in San Francisco in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, applying my skills to Akia.
Nice. And in the epicenter of AI, which ultimately we're going to meander our way down to AI for search and how marketers can apply it. But I do like history, and I like to know where things are coming from. And so I've been in the digital marketing game for about a decade. But like, what are some of the things that you've seen evolve over the course of your career in digital marketing? Because especially for younger listeners of like how we get to where we're at today, like there's been a ton.
Yeah, it's constantly evolving, and I've seen it since the pre-internet era. So every single every single part of it. In 1995, I got my first CompuServe account, and it actually had a browser in it. And the first markup language that ever existed was HTML. And I taught myself to code in HTML, and pretty soon you figured out what matters. And then search engines came along, Alta Vista, Lycos, Ask Jeeves, lots of very old search engines that are no longer around. And people try to figure out, how do you show up high in search results? And in the very early stages, it was kind of like much easier to manipulate the search engines, because they would just match your search to the words that were found on any given website. So if you optimize that site for that specific keyword, and the word keyword stuffing comes into play, as well as lots of backlinks, the quality was not part of the equation yet. Google implemented that at some point. So if you just had lots of backlinks and stuffed your site with a simple keyword, you would rank high for it. And it's not that easy anymore today. It's a cat and mouse game where the SEO experts trying to trick the engine, and then the engine implements something, a new algorithm update, and everything falls apart again.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, like we'll get to the generative engine optimization, but the marketers are going to eventually try to show up for this as well, and how we can kind of game that system. I mean, I don't know if that it's going to be as easy, or I don't think people know enough about it yet of how the
Correct.
LLMs are actually indexing stuff.
It's here to stay, and we have to adapt. I mean,
Yeah.
and we have to constantly adapt in our work to an ever-changing environment. And the new kid on the block is AI and LLMs.
Yeah, and it's interesting. For some reason, I've gotten my LinkedIn algorithm such that I get all these AI posts, especially by marketers, and
Hmm.
I see a common theme, and I don't really want to like poke it as like anything other than, people trying to understand and join the conversation, but it's, a lot of really a lot of it sits around job replacement and almost kind of like concerned about what it's going to do and what you can do for it. I mean, having seen many technologies come through, how should marketers be even thinking about AI, and
Yeah.
should we be discussing high level about all of this, or should we just be doing, figuring out how to use it?
I mean, it's not that it's going to go away.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be able to stop it, and ignoring it is probably the wrong way to go about it either. So you have to embrace it. I mean, to me, it's a tool like many tools we have used in the past, like Photoshop or whatever, that makes our lives easier. Agents can do work for you, and all the AI tools make you a more efficient, better marketer potentially. and you can utilize those tools to make some of your workflows that usually would take hours. I mean, even data analysis. Harry and I have done a lot with that, where you're trying to figure it out in an Excel sheet. But nowadays, you can actually throw that Excel sheet into ChatGPT, ask specific questions, and it's going to analyze the data for you and give you the responses that you need. And I mean, it's great for content. It's great for some creative that you just need in support of a social media post or so, and outlines for content, ideas for content. What is the most relevant topics for this and this group? ICP research, ICP definition, competitive research, product research. All of that is tools that you can utilize as a marketer. I don't think that many people are gonna get fully replaced. People might be a little bit more hesitant in hiring very large teams because you can be more efficient with a few less people. But those processes have taken place with automation throughout the history of humans anyways, and we just have to adapt.
Yeah, I don't know if you listened to the podcast Acquired,
Hmm.
but
Yeah, I think you told me about it. Yeah.
yeah, but they did a whole three-part series on NVIDIA, and then they concluded it with a fourth part where they interviewed Jensen Huang. Sorry, I'm almost blanking on his last name.
Uh-huh.
But anyways, he had like the best line that I've heard since then, and about this whole phenomenon. Just
Hmm.
basically, it might do some short-term stuff, but ultimately, what it's going to unlock is the productivity engine. So things that companies were wanting to do before that couldn't can now go pursue these new products, these new strategies,
Yeah.
and then it ultimately unlocks even more jobs. So it's almost this net bonanza of more work, more everything, because it's going to unlock what people have been wanting to do. And so I think that's such an optimistic view on this whole thing.
Yes. I mean, it's definitely every single company and that's coming out and every single billboard on 101 is all about new AI companies I've never heard of.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting on the research topic. I was doing some research projects on like company comparisons and things, and I
Hmm.
went to a market research GPT that somebody's built, and I thought I was using ChatGPT and stuff a little bit, but I started going down and getting it to do some research, and it's impressive. I'm doing like
Yeah.
specific personas, company comparison charts, what's the gap in the market for this type of thing, and it's giving you some things that you can go validate it, but it's really awesome. I mean, I was
Yeah, exactly. It makes our life easier, and it's in the end it's a tool.
yeah, and I had such a good time doing it. If you nerd out on that kind of stuff, like it's a lot of fun.
Oh, I do. I mean, I read a whole article on Wolfram Alpha on how GPT actually works. And his conclusion also is it's not all that intelligent. It's not actually like mindful or understanding what's happening here. It works on probabilities. What is the most likely next word that would come after the current word? And it works through that sequentially in by having read or ingested large amounts of data and human written word. So, but it's based on probabilities and statistics, not on any sort of knowledge. It has no clue what is actually being said.
Yeah, yeah, that's always good to think about that it's just probabilities.
Exactly.
So on the Chat GPT, kind of the reason we wanted to get together and chat was around generative engine optimization. And when I approached you to record a conversation and do this, you said, Logan, I've got the topic for you, and it's generative engine optimization. And you dropped a stat on me, and I don't know if we want to mention them, but like G2 apparently lost like 80% of their SEO traffic since 2023. And that's
Yeah,
what
it's
kicked off this
staggering.
whole thing about us trying to get down this rabbit hole of generative engine optimization. Is there anything more to that stat?
I mean, I know the guy who implemented all the SEO work for for G2. He's a friend of mine and is from the same hometown in Germany in Trier. Kevin Indig. He did all the SEO work for
Mhm.
G2, and we are in a new era now where not only Google changed some of their algorithms, but in the era of AI, and I see it all the time, they're now called no-click or zero-click searches, where you get the AI summary on top of your link search results. And most of the time, it answers the question that you just stated or asked Google. So there's no reason to click through the website anymore. If you're asking which is the better guest messaging software, and the AI summary already gives you the answer of here are the 3 top players. This and this company is the best. Of course, it's Akia. And
Shameless
and then
plug.
there's no reason there's no reason to click to onto G2 or anywhere else. And then on top of that, you have more and more people using generative engines like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, and so on as tools like you and I for our work. And then that replaces searches, classic search engine searches as well, and they become new sources of traffic. And a lot of sites have seen it where ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity become actual sources in their Google Analytics, in their HubSpot, that you can track and measure and see what the as a new source of traffic or source of leads and coming in.
Are you guys seeing new sources show up in your data?
Yeah, I mean, straight up, this lead was created from other campaigns, ChatGPT.
I mean, and
It's right there. Yeah.
and it's cool because like in real time, because of the way that whatever automation system you use. I mean, I'm a HubSpot fan, but it'll just start pulling that in so you can see that it's already happening to you,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and how to deal with that. So the interesting thing about all of this is there's probably some things that we could start thinking about doing today that are tactical. I don't really want to spend so much time talking about high level, how's it going to change, the theory of stuff. Like, I mean, that we
Yeah.
probably have very little control over that, but we can just assume it's here. We can assume it's a tool that we can use. Let's just meander through what are some of the things that we can start doing. I have some technical follow-up questions in
Yeah,
here
absolutely.
that I'd like to dive in, and I'm hoping are some new things people aren't talking much about. But high level, what are you thinking is the top things you can do?
So the generative engines are not going away, and we are all familiar with SEO. So the new kid on the block and word is GEO, which is Generative Engine Optimization, as in what can you do to your website and as a company or as a brand to rank high in large language model search results in a ChatGPT, in a Perplexity, in a Claude, inside those models. An easy starting point would be the equivalent to a robots.txt, which most websites have and have at the root level of their website. You can add an LLMs.txt that gives very clear instructions to the LLMs, to the crawling entity, how to perceive your brand, your product, your pricing, your product descriptions, and you can kind of like guide the crawling engine, the robot, the bot, throughout your site. You can point it towards the high value pages, and on LLMs.txt.org, that's kind of like the person who came up with the standard. It's not a standard yet, but the LLMs are actually looking for those.
Mm.
And having that in root level on your site is going to be a great first step. Then the second step, which has been around for SEO. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull you back a little bit on the LLMs.txt. You mentioned
Yeah.
it's a standard, but it's not a standard yet. What does that mean? How do standards get set for
hmm
this kind of stuff? Like, because we probably take some
Well,
examples from SEO and how those
yeah,
standards
I
got
mean, it
set.
was the same with the robots.txt. In 1994, somebody suggested, hey, these crawlers and these bots are actually hitting my server and are slowing down the server. It's asking too many queries, too many requests. This guy came up with the idea of giving instructions to these bots and crawlers of search engines and saying, don't touch these sites, or you could even disallow either parts of your sites or certain crawlers to not crawl your site. So you were giving the search engines instructions. So now somebody else had the same idea. And that's how standards oftentimes, somebody has to come up with a language, a model, an idea, and a framework of how we can best guide the LLMs. And the LLMs.txt is that next step. And similar to the robots.txt, oftentimes if there's no competition, and in this case, just with the robot.txt, there's no money to be made. There will be no real competition. If everybody adopts it, the search engines back in the day and now the LLMs are going to look for it as well. And so that's how standards are born. And I would recommend just creating one. It probably will not take you all that long. It's just a text file that guides the LLM through you as a brand, your products, and your website.
Nice. We'll link that in the show notes so people can take a look at that, do that for
Absolutely.
themselves. So sorry, I cut you off. So your next point was?
The next important point, and has been around in SEO for some time as well, not that many people are implementing it, even though there are plugins for WordPress and Webflow and all the other CMS systems as well, to implement a schema markup, which is either the authority there again, or the description is on schema.org, often as JSON LD, JavaScript object notation for linked data. It's just a machine readable format that allows you to structure your content and give instructions to a robot or a machine so that it's easier for the robot to interpret your data. So you can tell it exactly like, this is a question, this is an answer, this is the author, this is who wrote it, this is an article versus this is a book versus this is a piece of music. So you're kind of like layering additional meta information into the source code. It's not even visible to the human reader, but you're adding the markup language to your content, and that will help for the machine to interpret your content better. So it's actually, yeah, advisable to do it no matter what.
And you said there's not that many people doing it, or is it pretty much just standard
No,
practice, you think?
not enough people are doing it because it's a little bit of extra work. You have to actually mark the text in your CMS and then tell it what it is, so that again that is implemented in the backend. And I don't think enough people are doing it, but it's not that complicated. And on top of that, you still have to rank your headlines with an H1, H2, H3 properly. Use bulleted lists, numbered lists, clearly defined subsections, subheadlines, so that it's easily readable for both users as well as AI models.
Yeah.
It all actually makes total sense.
And is there any difference between what it is currently and what you think that LLMs are going to look for?
No, not really. I think the schema.org markup language and or markup is the standard and makes sense for the LLMs as well. They will interpret it just the same way.
Got it. Those are some good technical pieces. What are there any other ones that you want to, that you think people should, that tactically can start doing?
Absolutely. So the standard ones that are actually not that new, they apply to SEO as well, are comprehensive authoritative content. The generative engines actually prefer simple and conversational language, high quality backlinks. The question and answer mode is also preferred by LLMs. So even posing a question inside your blog post and then answering it in short, simple words afterwards but more conversational language is the way to go.
Mm.
Because, and the funny thing is, I mean, it's also nice as a human to read it in that fashion than having, I don't know, a long, complicated block of text and you don't know exactly what question is being asked or answered here as well. Speed and mobile optimization is something that was relevant for SEO as well. What they're saying is that frequent content updates are actually important as well. So having the
Mm.
timestamp more recent, so going back into some blog posts, just changing things a little bit and making them more recent are also making them more relevant for search engines. And then what I mentioned earlier, the way these models work are predicting the next word based on the preceding word. So in order for you to associate yourselves with the right keywords,
Mhm.
you want it to be as consistent as possible. So you should develop a description of your personal brand, your company brand, your products, and then have that consistently spread throughout the web. So if we are doing a lot of partner press releases with other companies, with partners that we integrate with, they should always have the same boilerplate, the same about section, how you describe yourself on your social media profiles, on other sites, on guest posts, on a podcast, wherever. It should always be very consistent and the same. So therefore, Logan can always be associated with like performance marketer or so, or whatever you want to position yourself as.
Mhm.
And so you can also associate your company name with the keyword that is most relevant to you if you put it close to your company name in your description, and then make sure that it's consistent everywhere out there. There's a lot of places where you can update it yourself on G2, on Capterra, on Wikipedia, on Crunchbase, in so many different profiles that probably have a description of you listed, your venture capitalist company, your investors, they have a little short description on their site. So whenever you work on your own positioning, make sure that it's consistent everywhere, and that will play into how you rank in the LLMs as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. That one's interesting because I was linking to, or I was listening to a podcast and doing the research for this. I'll link to that podcast after. I can't, to be honest, I just can't remember the name of it, but I'll get credit. They were talking about it as like almost like a PR strategy, like more like a PR strategy
Yeah, exactly.
that to.
And then what another trend that we have seen in the past 2 years, more relevant to SEO than GEO, is that this human conversational content, and especially Reddit, is now almost 50% of Google search results. So it has skyrocketed in relevance in search results, which also means you as a marketer should pay more attention to Reddit, as in find out if people are talking about your topics or your brand or your personal brand or whatever, respond or have somebody else respond, so that that content is also ingested by the GPTs, by Google and elsewhere. And these forums where you find all the natural language and the more conversational tone that the GPTs love, you need to be part of it too.
Interesting. So it's, I mean, like community led gets a really nice
Hmm.
buzz, and it's almost, trying to add a little factor of that into this whole equation so that you can just be part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. That is another channel you can optimize for. And on top of that, yeah, if so many people are going to Reddit, I actually have started advertising on Reddit for our company here. Beautiful interface, not very expensive, and I would say it's worthwhile trying out as a marketer.
Yeah, that's a channel that I want to try because they also have a keyword setup, right?
Yeah,
That you can,
yeah.
so you probably get a little bit of high intent
Keywords,
there.
keywords, subreddits, all of that, and yeah, lots of reach and not very saturated from an advertiser perspective.
Yeah, interesting. One follow-up question on, so you've got the community like this, getting your brand else consistent around the web so that they can ingest it. But there's like, you might know a little bit more of how the LLMs work, but isn't it kind of basically like a two-pronged thing when they're generating search results, where, or I shouldn't call it search results, but they're generating answers for you, where there's their base knowledge of things, and then
Hmm.
there's their crawling the web and ingesting new information to then compile for you for an answer. Like, so
Yeah.
the question would be, how do you impact that base layer a little bit?
Well, the base layer you won't be able to impact anymore because a lot of the initial versions of the GPTs were trained on data that was already like 2 years old. It
Gotcha.
was pretty much a snapshot of the internet at that time, of whatever, 2023 or so. And then the whole model was trained on that snapshot, and then it wouldn't actually take in any new information. Now, all these engines, especially Perplexity, ChatGPT, Claude, they have an option, or with Perplexity, it's always on, where it does ingest new search results. In ChatGPT, you click on the little search button. When it becomes blue, it will also search the internet, the current internet, to answer your question. Otherwise, it will probably rely on the data that is a snapshot from some point. I think they have newer snapshots now, but it will always remain a snapshot unless it has a live search built in.
Gotcha.
And we are obviously either optimizing for the next snapshot or for the live search. And so it doesn't matter. We have to optimize our sites anyways. And right now you have an opportunity because not enough marketers are aware or doing this. So optimizing your sites now for generative engines will give you probably a huge advantage.
Nice. Do you have any more that you want to add on to these key tactics? Otherwise, I got my next question loaded up for you.
So yeah, what they're just saying is it should be answer friendly content.
Answer friendly content.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, the FAQ or Q&A style content is preferred. Adding the structured language we talked about, and yeah, authoritative backlinks was prominent in SEO terms anyways.
Yeah.
And yeah, brand consistency is I think a key one that anybody can do, and also will only take, I don't know, a couple of hours. Develop a good description that you can put in all the different places with the right keywords in it, and this way you can associate yourself with the right keywords.
Good. Um, so we are in the profitability era, at least in tech, for measurement and ROI. So depending on whatever it is that you're doing at your current company, some of this is going to be a little progressive, but
Hmm.
I'm sure that, I mean, you may be getting asked this, Frederik, but there's going to be a marketer out there that gets asked the ROI portion of this before they're even able to start trying or going and doing stuff. And that's,
Yeah.
I mean, good, bad, or whatever. That's not for us to comment on. But like, if you want to go do something progressive, and this is probably to your, seasoned leadership, how do you start to balance some of these progressive things that are happening and being on the forefront, but also pair it with, any ROI questions or measurement or what have you that you might start getting so that you can kind of do
Yeah.
both?
So we all know that SEO as well as GEO tactics are not overnight tactics. Usually, if you make improvements to your SEO and your website, it will take some time for those to actually show real results. In this case, we know that the existence of the ChatGPT and other generative engines is inevitable. This is a future that we're walking into. They're only getting bigger, they're only getting used more. And on top of that, a lot of the tips that rank you high in generative engines are very close to recommendations that you would see in classic SEO terms as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a huge overlap in the Venn diagram. So it's it's just good business to implement all of those tips, and we can also put a short list checklist of tips into the show notes to simply implement them. And it will not take you that much time to get a consistent company description, and an LLMs.txt up and running will take your team no longer than half a day. And then on top of that, all the other tactics you should implement no matter what. I mean, we all should have good, thoughtful, authoritative content. And then you can just make your text a little bit more conversational, make it more FAQ style, make it more Q&A style, and make it your new style of doing marketing, and it will benefit you no matter what in regards to your traffic, your leads, and it will be measurable. You can already see the rise of all these engines in your HubSpots and Google Analytics and whatever analytics tool you're using.
Yeah, so really the recommendation is just to, shift to GEO, and it's going to include all of the SEO best practices in it anyways. And so
Correct.
you're just going to
Yes.
add on a couple of extra things to make sure that you're catching all of what you need.
Correct.
Okay, so our friend Harry that we worked with has turned me on to agents.ai, and I've nerded
Uh-huh.
out on some of that. But I want to hear what's like an AI agent process outside of LLMs. We're now moving on from generative engine. What's an
Yeah.
agent process that you've done that you think other people should do, or like, I mean, you can give more than one.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's agent.ai, and it's the largest network to find agents and to build AI agents. And they are little tools that do work for you in a very specific manner. I have used the competitive research agent,
Yeah.
and you can simply just type in either the competitor or yourself, and it will give you very detailed results in regards to their positioning, how they compare to you, and all that. Super, super simple, super easy, and pretty impressive results. So love that. Then I just saw the building your ICP. And the cool thing is it's based, I have to do the download first, prepare the data so that the agent can read it well,
Mm-hmm.
is to give them the LinkedIn URLs of all the decision makers, the buyers in your Salesforce.
Oh,
So you're pretty much giving it the persona of all the buyers from your engine, usually Salesforce, and then it will build a very detailed ICP based on that. So I'm looking forward to testing that out.
so
But it can, yeah.
and are you taking that as all the buyers of all deals that you've won, and then it's going to create something for you, or is it
Well,
like a
you
specific?
want your ideal customer profile, so you can narrow down even a little bit more. So where, as most companies, we're going more up market.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll do a cut of, like, I don't want the small deals. I want deals above $10,000, and maybe put another parameter in there, and then I will get all the names and LinkedIn URLs, feed that to the agent, and we'll get a brand new ICP there.
So is that an agent you built or you came across it?
No, Harry is Harry Hawk, and he asked me to build some agents as well. I don't have the time right now, but there are 1,200 plus agents already on agent.ai. And so, no, those are just ones that I've been using and trying out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I want that one, and I want to.
Yeah,
So we'll put
exactly.
the link to it. So the nice thing is, if you just go to agent.ai, you can go find all sorts of these things. The other thing I want to add to this, what I love, I use it for company research all the time. You can plug the name
Hmm.
in. But if you're a HubSpot user, you can toss webhooks for all of these, or get ones that
Uh-huh.
allow you to do webhooks, so you can do them in real time in your HubSpot instance and pull stuff in. And what's really awesome, like I know that HubSpot's kind of shifting their, not to make this a plug for all this, but like it's just good stuff to get going on. They've got credits on their company intelligence stuff and the breeze information, but what is interesting is you can actually use the webhooks and run agents with the Breeze intelligence out of agent.ai and start pulling
Wow.
stuff in, and then splice it in all different directions of how you
Yeah.
want to do it. So as a lead comes in, you need company research, throw a webhook, get a Breeze intelligence, it'll come back in. You could take that and have it summarize it for a BDR into like 2 or 3 sentences. There's all sorts of stuff, but this ICP one I'm super
I
interested
I
in.
have to try more of that out. I mean, yeah, enriching the data and the initial lead with more data about the company, about their properties or whatever would be fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, and I know hotels, like in your specific instance, have all these property management companies. I bet you could probably research some of that for you and figure out
Yeah,
how they're all
exactly.
situated. And that's,
Yeah.
I mean, agent.ai is a HubSpot project. So that's the beauty of doing stuff there. If you're a HubSpot user, is you could just toss it all in and it all integrates really nicely.
Yeah.
So
No, it sounds great.
yeah, but that's kind of the point there. Any other cool agents that you've seen out in the world?
Agent wise, not so much. I talked to my son recently, and he says, talking about the rise of AI and generative engines, he asks every single question just to ChatGPT now, like much more than Google ever has.
Mm.
He has it as a shortcut on his phone. You can talk to it, and you can ask any question you want. And yesterday I put it on my home screen first home screen as well. So yeah, I will use it more as well for even things that are maybe not work related. So it was my daughter's birthday yesterday, and she wanted a cheesecake. So I just asked ChatGPT, where can I find a really good cheesecake in Los Altos or Mountain View? And it gave me the right response.
And how was the cheesecake?
Fantastic.
Were you like,
Thanks to Dragers.
there you go. Nice. Well, good, Frederick. Thank you for jumping on and talking through generative engine optimization, building your ICP with agent.ai, and kind of how some of these standards get built. And that's kind of where we're at, is getting standards for LMs built. Anything else you'd like to leave the audience with?
No, I mean, it's always a bit adapting to new technologies and us marketers being on the forefront, being innovative. And in this case, it is about optimizing for generative engines. It's here to stay. We got to do it. We got to do it well. And I recommend to anyone to get on it and implement at least some of these tactics because they will be beneficial no matter what. If you would like to connect anywhere, you can find me on pretty much every social network out there. LinkedIn is probably the most traditional way to connect professionally, and I can be found there under Frederik Hermann. The K, no C in my first name.
He's probably saying that because my Apple spell check added a C into his name and I felt a little bad. So all good.
No, no worries.
Well, good. Well, thank you, Frederick. Appreciate the time, and I think these are some great tactics that we'll have to roll with.
I appreciate the time as well. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Awesome.